Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Praveen Paulose, who is the founder of Celusion Technologies, which helps banks, financial services, and insurance companies to transform their customer acquisition process to a fully digital channel, augmented by real-time regulatory checks and artificial intelligence for fraud detection. Hi, Praveen. Welcome to ELI.
Hi, Priya. Thank you for having me on this show.
I'd request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Sure. So I'm Praveen Paulose, Managing Director and CEO at Celusion Technologies. I have had my background in computer science. I've been an engineer from DY Patil, Nerul, and I worked for about 5 years in the industry. And post that, I set up Celusion Technologies in 2006. Other than that, at a personal level, I do enjoy playing sports. I never miss that.
Okay. Tell us a bit about Celusion, what it is about.
Right. So in about 2004, when I was working with one of the companies, there was just too much free time that I had, working as a CTO. That's when I started doing small-time development for my personal interest on mobile apps, and that's how the company got formed. At that time, there were no Play stores, there were no app stores. You had to work very closely with the operators for your mobile apps. And I was tired of the games that were available by the operator, and then I started creating my own games around Sudoku and crossword, those kind of games. And we thought, why not get into this, because this is what the enterprises would require in the future. And that's how we started Celusion Technologies in 2004. We started with around 2 people. Now, 15, 16 years down, about 150 people, based primarily out of Mumbai.
Okay. Since you started with a different problem statement, I think now you are solving a different problem. Can you tell us in a brief way what are the different products or services that we are offering right now at Celusion?
Right. So right now at Celusion, we're very focused on the banking and financial services industry. Our products range from lead management or acquiring a customer through digital channels, doing the full onboarding with its KYC, loan origination. These are some of the products that we are servicing in the market today.
Now tell us a little bit about the evolution of this venture, how it got from mobile apps to banking, and how were the initial customers onboarded to the platform or the company.
Sure. So when we started in 2004, 2006, that's what we started with. Like I said, the mobile apps. However, the market was not really conducive to create mobile apps because, like I mentioned, there was no Play Store or App Store where you could just upload and start generating revenue out of it. So your only way to, really make a sale was to work with the telecom operators, and that's how the popularity of your apps would increase. And I was 26 years old at that time. There was no chance that I could spend enough money to work with telecom operators. It's not as straightforward as a direct sale. There's a lot of money involved in the marketing to get your app more popular. So then we moved on to doing bespoke software development. We did that for many years. For about 10 years, I can say our main breadwinner is the bespoke development. In between, we did have an opportunity and built a product called SMS Connection. This is where you get enterprise messages being sent. But we were very clear we don't use it for marketing. We use it for transactional messages. And then as we did bespoke development, we realized that we managed to make a brand for ourselves as, do you have a problem in technology? Get Celusion guys, and they will be able to help you. However, that does not really help in selling. Right. So what we did was we changed our focus slightly. While we were good at the technology, we changed our focus slightly to understand the domain, which means if you're working with stockbrokers, then we got on board people who work, with stockbrokers, who's been in a part of that industry, and we started solving domain problems for them. Or if it's the microfinance industry or in BFSI, and now we have domain experts. So along with that domain expertise and the technology, I think we found our way, and we've been getting good repeat business from this industry now, and that's where we intend to be because it just seems to be like the right time. With all the work going on in fintech, be it the regulatory or the number of companies that are coming up, I think everything's moving digital.
Absolutely. Um, can you tell us a little more about the products that we have? What kind of segments they cater to, and what is the level of acceptance and success of these products in the industry?
Sure. I'll speak about unified account opening, the one that you introduced us with in the tagline. In unified account opening, we've been able to walk up to the stockbrokers. All of them, even during this pandemic, had a big problem in terms of digitally opening accounts because you could not really physically meet a prospective customer and get those accounts open. Now, our journey has been staggered in the sense you were not always allowed to do a full digital journey, but the regulatory has also been changing rules. So for an example, if I had a power of attorney document earlier, and a power of attorney document had to be physically signed, right? And the regulatory is now slowly changing those rules and allowing these digital things to happen. So the last leg might have been a physical one earlier, but during the pandemic, things have changed. It has been taken up well by the industry. You can easily say that we work with the top 5 out of the 10 stockbrokers in the country. We are doing close to, close to around 50,000 demat and trading accounts every day with these stockbrokers. A similar case happens in the NBFCs where, the same products used to open personal loans or to apply for personal loans, to apply for home loans. And again, in the housing finance sector or in the loan sector, we work with quite a few large enterprises. So in the last 18 months, when we've been looking at our numbers, I think close to around 10,000 crores worth of disbursements have happened, through this platform or acquisition of customers. We eventually got 10,000 crores worth of disbursements. So that is just increasing every day. And I'd say the customers have accepted it well also. People who were doing, let's say, 100 accounts per day have transformed to close to 1,000, 1,500 accounts per day. And this has happened in a short span of 2 months of going live with the product. And when the business likes your product, then there's no stopping any other stakeholder. And everybody else, just be it compliance, credit team, or IT teams, the other stakeholders that look into this product, they just need to have their tick marks on your checklist. But if you're contributing to business directly, then the product automatically works.
Absolutely. May I ask why you have chosen BFSI as a domain you want to build expertise on? When you started, you were catering to all sort of industries, but why BFSI?
I'll say that is very incidental. Bombay being the headquarters of most of the financial companies, while we were doing a lot of bespoke work, we managed to attract more customers in that specific space. That's how it started. And then, we took a keen interest on that in that whole space and just moved in that direction. It was not that, we had a very clear focus and agenda earlier to work with BFSI only. I think Bombay being that headquarters, financial headquarters for many large financial institutions, that's how we really got introduced into it. Then as a company, we love that whole industry overall.
Okay. Speaking of BFSI, I think a lot of things are happening in BFSI right now. Speaking of streamlining the operations, I think the last 3-4 years, it's been a lot of changes that are happening, and also consumers are adapting very fast. But can you tell us what are some of the areas which are yet to be streamlined, which are not very well streamlined still now?
So there's a lot of focus on this customer onboarding. People are working towards it, but at the same time, when you talk about user experience, the user experience has to be equally good for the banking employees. It has to be equally good for the partners of the banks, where it has been lacking, substantially, because that is not really front facing the customer. It's not building the brand value there. But we would like to think otherwise, and that's where we try and build an ecosystem. So when we say there's an account opening platform, it's not just directed to the customer. Okay, it's directed to the DSAs or your selling partners that are there. It's also directed to your verification partners. So when you have a proper ecosystem, that's the only way you can get the speed of opening an account, right? Otherwise, I can only call it as the speed of filling up a form. But then eventually, let's say your operations team, right? When they do verifications, can you bring all the verifications that they need, up on the screen in a simple manner that a task that used to take them, let's say 90 seconds earlier, now happens in 15 or 20 seconds because you've got the PAN card photo, you've got your profile photo side by side. It's not scrolling up and down, searching and all. So that's one area. And obviously, with what's happening on the Web3 and the blockchain and all, there will be newer ideas that really, come up because I do believe the underlying technology, which is blockchain, is going to be really promising in the future.
Uh, there has been a lot of things happening in virtual space, and the old model of banking is very rapidly changing. So what would you say is the role of traditional banks in the future of banking space? How do you foresee them 5 years from now, where all the work that a bank employee does has been automated?
In terms of being, I mean, though it has been automated, and they have new skills that they have to really acquire, the same banking employees. And I do think all traditional banks are moving the digital route. So it's always, I mean, the fintech might be a few steps ahead today, but that's what we're doing, right? What we're trying to do is give these traditional banks, these traditional houses, uh, an equal level playing ground. We're giving them the technology that the fintechs are using. So if a stockbroker wanted to be like one of the new age ones, then our platform pretty much allows that, and we feel really happy when somebody compares it. Let's say a share Khan versus a Pro example, and they say the user experience at share Khan is better because we've been working with them. That's what we're trying to do. Get those traditional houses up in terms of the technology. And I have not really seen, too many loss of jobs because what they do is, they venture into newer businesses. So they realign their team, they upskill their team to work in this whole, digital era. And it's a little easy today because they themselves must be using some of the other digital tools. It's not really a big effort to get them to upskill to the new ways of doing work.
I think some of your products are using AI into banking. Can you tell us what are the different areas on which AI is being used or can be used to solve banking problems?
So one of the more common use cases is the computer vision based use cases, right? And that's as part of this whole account opening process itself, we use that a lot. So for an example, traditionally, if you had to open an account, you would have to give your name, your PAN number, your date of birth, and everything. So we do it the other way around. We say upload a photograph of your PAN card, and that would do an OCR. Now, however, OCR has been there for ages, but when it is powered by AI, the accuracy is almost 99%. Right? There are very few chances of it going wrong. Then there are certain manual tasks like a face match or detecting a face. So I've asked a person to take a photograph of himself. Is there a face in that whole system? Is there liveliness? Is that a live person or is that a photograph of a photograph? Because what will happen is it will just increase the turnaround time. So most of our use cases today have been around computer vision. We've had inquiries and will be working in that direction where data that is collected during the onboarding stage itself, if we can, kind of profile the customer and kind of estimate whether what kind of business or would come from this person based on how he's interacting with the application form or the data that has come through, uh, using that to predict the business one, or when it comes in the case of loans, predicting defaults. So, though I have not really seen too many people do it yet, but there is work going on in that direction. And I think that's the next stage when it comes to data, and then using AI to kind of classify these or categorize these customers that are being onboarded.
Being a stakeholder in banking and finance space, what would you say are the top three trends happening in Indian banking and finance space right now, which will be very big things in next 5 to 10 years?
So one is the whole movement of it being decentralized. That's like a little far-fetched beyond probably 5 years. Another one that I can think of is being connected, which is through APIs. So now, banks are willing to open up APIs. They understand the power of APIs, and I mean, led by examples by the government itself. I think it's brilliant the way the government has come out with a lot of APIs out there that allow you to do these verifications, and slowly the banking industry itself is allowing that. That makes life easy for everybody. Otherwise, connecting and verifying all this information was very difficult. So these are two areas that I can think of. And the final one, I would say, banks traditionally would not really worry about the user experience or what it really matters for the customer. But today they're taking a very, very conscious effort, in revamping all their digital channels. They might have the machinery to get it working underneath, which is very stable, but they are concentrating on that customer experience and bringing that wow factor. And they might just get into everything. I think every bank is now, they've got their own mall. You have a K mall for a Kotak mall, or banks are working beyond their traditional banking models. Yeah, these are some of the things that I think are going to change drastically going forward.
Okay. Well, from now on, the questions will be towards the personal side of being an entrepreneur. So to start with, can you tell us what drives you to become an entrepreneur? In fact, what drove you to leave your first job and start your own venture?
I think it is a passion for software development. So I'm one of those unusual heads of the company who still program till date, right? Which is looked down upon, I think, in India most of the times. How can you, by the time you become a manager, you're not supposed to code. So when I was in the sixth standard, that's when I started software programming. I used to do work for my school, and that passion to learn newer things is constantly there. And in this IT industry, at least, you have to be able to change, because there are new things coming practically every day. And unless you enjoy that, unless you keep upgrading yourself to that, you will not be able to survive this industry. There'll be plenty of examples of people, because of their legacy technology, have had to shut shop. I think that's one of the things that has kept us growing, because the same passion that I spoke about, we've been able to, inculcate that in the company as the tech is moving forward. We've been able to adapt all of that new technology and provide that benefit to the customers. So that's the main reason I think I, kind of jumped into it. I have no business background. I think, but then again, sales has also changed today, right? If you're a knowledgeable person, then people want to talk to you. Your regular sales process that you used to have earlier, I don't think the top management are really interested in your sales pitches. If you're able to solve that problem there, I think it's working to our advantage while trying to build that knowledge base. So yeah, I started it, and ever since, I think I've been enjoying it. You have your ups and downs, but overall it's been a fun journey so far.
Being a programmer is one thing, but being an entrepreneur is a whole new level altogether. And as an entrepreneur, you are not supposed to just drive yourself, but you have to drive a team and drive a company altogether. But there would be times when you feel demotivated, tired, restless, or you lose your focus. And when that happens, the business also suffers. Can you tell us how do you manage situations where you lose your focus?
So one of the beautiful things of being an entrepreneur is, you're part of the technology team, you're part of the sales team, you're part of the marketing team, you're also part of the finance team. As in, you've got to, have an overall look at it. right? So more than let's say feeling down in terms of a technology work that you've been doing, you can easily switch over to the sales function. That's how I change my focus and try and um, contribute to the different departments in the organization. Uh, and if as a person you are on that low mood for a long time, then you can't be an entrepreneur for sure.
Hmm.
Somehow I think it's also in entrepreneurs that uh, you might feel low on a particular day, but the next morning you're just able to rise up with new energy. If you continue cribbing or crying about it and not really looking forward to it, to solving whatever issue you haven't had, then it's going to be very difficult to run a company for sure.
How do you manage your time on a day-to-day basis? In other words, how does your schedule or calendar look like for a typical day?
It's changing for me. Like I said, since I was more from the programming background, I used to spend a majority of my time in programming. Today, the focus, um, because there's a much larger team, the focus has shifted to, contributing overall to the product strategy and what should be the product roadmap, rather than always being hands-on. And continuous reviews just to know that things are on track within the company. So it's like set a high level goal for the company and ensure that all the people below that in some way or the other are aligned to those same goals. So they set their own goals, they set their own uh, KRAs, so to speak. The only question asked to them is how does that map to the company's goal? Otherwise you might just waver off in a different direction. So reviews are becoming more a part of it.
Okay. Everybody talks about the entrepreneur's success, but I think a big part of the entrepreneur's life is about going through failures as well. In fact, as an entrepreneur, you face more failures than you succeed. So can you tell us about some of the biggest failures that you have gone through as an entrepreneur?
Let's say one, we would like to have been faster in terms of have more products in place, because at the end of the day we've been 15 years. Uh, the problem is, if you're a bootstrap company, you're plowing in your profits again. You don't have the resources to kind of build your product and everything. Uh, so it could have been faster if the resources were in place. Uh, and there is a downside to also having resources in place. About 4 or 5 years back, when we had extra funds in place, we ended up spending it so fast, without the real outcomes that we would have wanted out of it. Suddenly you're spending on big marketing. Yes, you're taking some large research-based annual subscriptions worth lakhs of rupees. Then you've got to be very careful even when the money comes in, because at some point in time, it always has to be about profit. Right? Eventually, you have to be able to repay that money from wherever you've taken it. So that taught us a very important lesson when we took that money, because it took us 2 years to get out of that situation and then get back to a comfortable zone. But I think these failures help you, because today when we are actively talking to prospective investors, we know very clearly that now this time when the money comes in, we know exactly how to spend it, how to track it, when to stop kind of splurging in unnecessary places, if I would say. So yeah, these were one or two things I would classify as failures, and how it's been a learning experience for me.
What is the meaning of entrepreneurship for you? How do you define the term entrepreneur?
I would say it's a couple of things. One is following your passion, finding people similar to your passion, and then leading them towards that common goal. I mean, each one of them individually are different things, but then all three of them put together, I would say, is what a real entrepreneur is.
Uh, Perhaps my final question for you. Tell us about the different lessons that you have learned as an entrepreneur, especially the interesting ones, which we can take away and apply to our ventures and possibly our lives as well.
So I'd say personally, there are quite a few things I've learned. So for an example, There would be situations where, I would get angry and probably raise my voice or be rude, more than raising the voice. I don't think we have that culture at all, but being rude. And what I see is, that completely demotivates the other person. So as a person now, if a situation like that ever comes up, I take a breath, calm myself down, and then speak to the person 10 minutes later. Because what I can see is you keep, chasing the other person, breathing down the other person's back. You're not going to get, anyways, you're not going to get any results, right? So you might as well motivate that person in a positive sense. And that's how, that team really starts working for you. During this journey also, I think I have, with most people that I directly work with now, I'd say about 25% of the company I do directly work with in some form or the other when they reach out to me. I do take an interest in, their personal life, not getting too personal, but then trying to know what their goals are and seeing whether, the company can assist them overall in any of those goals. So a lot of software developers I'd say are kind of weak at personal finances. So can the company really help them, by giving free counseling from a finance perspective, or insurances that they would not have covered because, they really don't understand that, and probably they're young to understand that. So having that connect has kind of helped in terms of loyalty within the organization. Otherwise, even during these times, having any person in your company for beyond 5 years, I think, is a good person is unthinkable, right? For the shift that's happening in the IT industry. But I'd safely say that we've got 10 to 15% of our staff who are beyond 5 years and are, I can see our competition pecking at them every day with a new offer. So these are some things that I've, kind of learned at a personal level, and at a company level, it's, just keep aiming high. I never thought we'd get up here. I'd really not thought in terms of kind of customers and everything, and just be true to that, and the success automatically follows.
Speaking of people, there is one more question I want to ask you. How do you go about hiring people for your venture? What processes do you follow, and what do you look in a particular person when you before you make a hiring decision?
One of the key things, like I said, when I was explaining what an entrepreneur is, right? It's about their passion. Okay, that passion has to come out somewhere, through the resume, through the interview process, anywhere. So, for an example, when I had to hire a person in, user experience, generally a lot of people put a photograph in their resume. Now, this lady who I was dead sure I'm going to hire up, even after looking at the resume, had a cartoon of herself on the resume. Now, not many people, yeah, would have, I'd say, the confidence to put that there, but it's so apt to that role, right? That itself shows, the person is creative, is passionate about that field. Otherwise, why would they go about doing that in the resume? I haven't seen, too many people do that. Similarly, I've seen another, video resume, beautifully marketing that person, and that person I've been reaching out to, and we have a very good connect today when it comes to marketing. So that passion is the one thing that I'm looking out for. So when it's programmers, do you have a Bitbucket account? Have you been contributing to source code, open source? Have you been answering on Stack Overflow? Beyond your academic and what you've done in the past, which is just, immediately qualify a set of people or from group one to group two. But that one factor of passion and that hunger that I really want to make a difference is something that we keenly look out for. Along with that, you have to be careful for entrepreneurs. You have to be very careful about what culture does that person come from.
Hmm.
All right, because we've made that mistake in the past for sure. So I'm sure, newcomers in this journey would want to know that. So you hire a person from a tier one company who's been doing pros and sales, and you bring him up to your 10, 15 member setup. It's not going to work, right? Because the culture there, the support system that they had was very, very different as compared to, a 10 member setup where you yourself have to take the printout, you yourself have to write the document, right? Or you have to make the calls, uh, which is very different from a tier one company. So that culture from where that person is coming, or it has to kind of match. Is your company moving towards that? Because your company culture also changes. When you move from 10 people to 100 people, the processes get more
Mm.
fine-tuned. So depending on which direction you are going, I think that's also important. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult for that person to gel inside your organization.
Well, on this note, I think we have come to the end of the session. Thanks for your time, Praveen, and our best wishes for solution.
Thank you very much, Priya. Thank you very much for that.